We've heard the word retarded all our lives, and people have the nerve to tell us they're not making fun of us. In Minnesota, we're sick of this term, and we're doing something about it. This all started when a Minneapolis theater group thought it would be funny to use the word retarded in the title of a show.
I have always been a big fan of Brave New Workshop. It's fun political theater, they satire, they make fun of everyone. In April, I got the email announcing the new show, and I saw the title was Rise of the Celebretards, which really hurt me. My daughter, many would consider retarded, a retard. She has that label out there. I'm not saying I'm giving it to her or anything, but other people are giving it that to her. When people use that word, like Brave New Workshop is using it, and they're calling celebrities retards, they're in effect saying those people are like my daughter, and that's a bad thing. And my daughter's not a bad thing.
Others began talking about the play's title. A lot of siblings of people with disabilities were really upset at how this word was being used.
As we did research on the topic, we found out that the term retard or celebretard or something like this is becoming really popular with young people.
I didn't realize it had such a comeback. I thought we were past that.
I thought people were more aware of what they were saying.
Yeah.
In my generation, we didn't ever see anyone who had physical or intellectual disabilities. I can only remember one man who was mildly retarded. He was the only person I ever saw. My sister was in an institution. Everyone was locked away. Now children are in a completely different situation. They go to school with their brothers and sisters. They're there. That's why I'm surprised the term is so popular.
I'm scared that retard, is that going to become a word like idiot or moron where people don't even think twice about using it, even more so than now?
I don't know.
2 of my sons have developmental disabilities. I also have a brother, and he has a severe, profound developmental disability. When I was a little girl, I remember everyone used to think I was so special because I had such patience with my brother. And I always resented that because I didn't think I was doing anything special. I was just being my brother's sister. A particular friend I remember, he used to say, "Hey, retard," use the word retard a lot. I never approached her and said, I'm offended by that. Being accepted by your peers is a really important thing, and so I never approached them.
I'm old enough to remember when we mothers wanted our children to be called retarded or mentally retarded instead of what they were often called, which was idiot, imbecile, or moron. We were fighting for the dignity of our children. We were also fighting for services for our children, and we wanted our children to be accepted by society.
Over the past 50 years, parents and advocates have worked hard to make the world a better place for people with disabilities. Unfortunately, some professionals still use the R word.
It's a term that's accepted and often used in my profession, working with persons with developmental disabilities, as a okay term, but I feel uncomfortable with it myself.
I've been labeled ever since I was a kid. My sisters or friends or someone on the street would always label me as a retard.
We're at the old Jefferson grade school. I wasn't too good in reading. One teacher picked me up and called me retarded, stupid, and the other teachers, they did the same thing.
No matter what your label is, what your disability is, kids use the R word to say, "Hey, retard," or "Hey, retardo," it's just, I just remember going home crying. It was so hurtful.
I know young generations now kind of use it as a joke, but I don't think that's right.
When the word retard is used, even in a joke, the focus of what people see changes. People see a disability, not a human being with feelings like theirs.
People from the Brave New Workshop declined to meet with us to discuss their use of the R word. So we asked their patrons what they thought of the word.
What do you think when you hear the word retard?
Well, it doesn't make me feel very good.
Well, to be honest, like shame or humiliation and a little bit of sadness.
What do you think if someone called you a retard?
I think it's based on self-esteem.
The word's lost a lot of its, I think, original meaning. It's tossed around quite a bit these days.
One of the things that are just so potentially painful about a term like retarded, regardless of who it's being used against, is precisely the fact that it cuts to one of the most core anxieties in the human experience, a feeling of inferiority based upon one's mental facility to accomplish and to work in this world.
Feels like they're just degrading people who are born with
disabilities, yeah.
Right? I think it's a mean word.
Inappropriate term.
Would depend on how it's used.
It's really common with our kids and stuff. For them to, when you're being goofy, to say, "Oh, you're so retarded," but we know that they're not meaning mentally challenged as much as they're just. It's just like when they throw out the word, "Oh, that's so gay." They're not even talking about homosexuality. They're just using a word that.
Yeah, with kids today, they say the different words all the time, and that's the way we probably take that word, is just using it as a slang word.
I probably don't give it a lot of thought, actually. I use it loosely myself.
I think if they took a moment and thought about what that word really means, all the history that word carries with it, and what it means to the people around them, that I think maybe they'd think twice, and maybe that they wouldn't say it.
You can never leave that past meaning behind. You can never completely divorce the use of a particular term, especially a term like the N-word or even a term like retarded, from its cultural history.
I kind of grew up with that word. Nowadays it's a little more politically incorrect, but it didn't bother me.
You were called that?
No, but I mean, I didn't know it was a bad word. Never knew it was a bad word until I got older.
I don't let my child say it in
Sure.
a negative way.
Shouldn't be used in a defaming way. Don't know if you couldn't use it any other way, I suppose.
What do you think if someone called you a retard?
I would take offense to that.
I would feel angry and like misunderstood.
Okay.
What do you think if someone called you a retard?
Actually, my kids have said that to me a few times.
People call us that, and we call each other that.
No, it's not good. No, it's not good.
I was in elementary school. We were out at recess one day, and there was a group of kids there who had disabilities. My sister was probably 2. All the kids I was around started making fun of this group of kids with disabilities and calling them retarded. And I joined in. And I got home and told my mother about this. And she said, "Marissa, your sister has a disability." And to this day, I just feel terrible about that. Because like I said, she was just my sister. Ever since that time as a child, I was so vigilant whenever anyone would make fun of someone with a disability or use the word retarded to tell them that hurts and that affects real people.
If I called somebody that would be wrong. You know, if I said, "Hey, you retard,"
I would feel that would be offending.
Yeah. But I've said things like, you know, you see something really stupid and you're like, "Oh, that's retarded." But that's a phrase rather than coming down on somebody else, you know, saying that they are that way.
If being retarded meant you were beautiful, rich, etc., it would be wonderful to be retarded. So it's just the meaning that society ascribes to a particular word.
Society has given a lot of different meanings to the word retarded. Most of them are pretty bad. Disability, however, is not a bad thing. It's a natural part of life.
In the beginning, God made us because he was bored. He needed some joy, poetry, and clowns. He gave us as a chromosome to being very special people. Adorable, cuddly, funny, and a little bit sexy. At the end, the guy wasn't bored anymore. Amen.
We use humor to open up the doors of conversation. There's a number that we've done for years called the downbeats. My reaction when I first heard that song was I didn't quite know whether to laugh or to take them seriously. Then at some point in the song it's opened up that it's okay to laugh, and all of a sudden I'm an audience member engaged with performers.
We wanted to know what other people thought about using the R word and about other words that hurt people with disabilities, so we held a big meeting to talk about it.
I would like to welcome all of you to this discussion here at Interact Theater to talk about words that offend us in different ways. The first comment or quote is from Caleb McEwen, and it says, "People have the right to be offended, and we have the right to be wrong," he says. "And if we can't use the word retard, does that mean we should not use idiot, moron, or crazy either? Eventually, we can't say anything."
On a scale of 1 to 10, I agree 10, because the suffix tard doesn't necessarily refer to a word like retard that would be used anymore in our society. And those words that were up on the screen, those were words that doctors used even a generation ago. So where are we with what terms we can use and can't use?
I disagree, because all my life I've been called a retard, okay? My own mother called me a retard. I'm not a moron. I'm not an idiot. I'm a human being. I have feelings. I was also told, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Thank you.
There was no scientific base for the use of the terms. They are bad descriptors, even from a medical sense.
What gives the right to people to call us dirty names and get away from it? It's wrong. Please stop calling names.
Let's get rid of the word retard, stupid, dumb, moron. Let's get rid of all those bad words.
My dream is to be an advocate for people that have disabilities, and I do not believe that people should have a right to use the word retard, gay, or any other words to explain how they don't like somebody because they're different.
The question before us here is not can they, but should they? To use the N-word as an example, it's still legal to use that word. You shouldn't, but you can.
Somebody can call you whatever they want to. If you decide to be under that term, that's a different story.
It pains me to see you are staging a show that is called Rise of the Celebretards. If you don't know how offensive this title is to people with disabilities and their families, try this. Replace the retard in celebretard with the M-word or other racial or ethnic slur of your choice. It really is that offensive.
People don't know the history of these words. They don't know the history of how hard you and myself and many other people fought to get rid of not these words as words, but these words as what they represented in social society, to get rid of racism, to get people out of institutions, to get the right to education and so on for people with disabilities.
My name is Manny Steinman. I used to live in the Faribault State Institution back in the early 60s and the beginning of the 70s. I'm basically trying to educate other people for the experience that I had in my lifetime, and it's just painful just when I went through when I was younger. But I'm glad I learned from everything, and I'm glad who I am and what I am today.
I've had one of those gut-wrenching experiences where a stranger, actually teenagers in a truck, rolling by, went out the window and yelled "fucking cripple" at the top of their lungs, and that was my defining moment, where by the time I got home, I was sobbing.
They be saying, "Oh, you that's a handicap. You're a monkey. You look like an ape. Is your mother retarded?" I just ignore them because that really hurts my feelings.
Those words do hurt. Don't call names anymore. Don't laugh at me. Don't call me names.
Don't say a certain word is not right. You have to find that word is a positive word, not aggressive word, not like retard.
When we use a disrespectful word to define a person, we're giving ourselves permission to be disrespectful toward that person.
I'm a teacher, and we hear, most unfortunately, the word retard every day. How do I talk to 8-year-olds about the appropriateness of language? When I say, when you say, well, this isn't a word that we should be using, and they say, well, why not? Everybody else does. How do we talk to kids about that?
Well, zero tolerance for bullying. If you call a person a retard, whether or not you really mean that they're retarded or whether or not the word is just used without thinking, it's still a word, and I think we wouldn't tolerate a lot of other words.
Inclusion is a really important thing, and I think as long as we're segregated, then we can call each other anything, and it doesn't enter our own heads or hearts.
For 2 years, I worked at the Brave New Workshop as a writer and as an actor. And during my time there was the Monica Lewinsky scandal. One of the shows that I did then was Saving Clinton's Privates. Also at the same time, Saving Private Ryan was out. So we took the two. And our job as satirists was to comment on what was happening in society. And that's what I enjoyed about it, was that while I had my own thoughts and opinions, we had to take a brutal look at, an honest look at what people were talking about and what was being said. I think society in general is sort of the naughty child, that when you say don't use it, you're going to hear it.
I teasingly used the word gimp a lot, and the first time I used it with my boss, he actually recoiled. And he said, at home, if I would have used those words, my parents would have slapped me. In my community, that's a word I feel comfortable with, but not everybody does.
The word retard to me is a very emotional and very personal word. And it used to make me so angry. I would try to hurt the other person who said it. I'd say, someone say, oh, that's so retarded. I'd say, no, my sister is, and try to hurt them back. And what I learned is that's not the approach you need to take. That's not how to educate somebody by making them feel bad. So now I take it down a level and I make it a lighter conversation. And if someone uses that, I just kind of say, that word offends me. I do have an older sister with disabilities, and it's kind of an emotional word for me.
Empower yourselves, empower your children. Don't hide from them what their issues are. My son has been sitting at the IEP table since he was in 2nd grade. He gets the first 20 minutes of every IEP meeting. And you don't know the impact that makes.
Those of us in the disability community shared a lot of concerns and a lot of pain about offensive language. Next, we had to work on doing something more than just talking about it.
Doug. Doug. Rick. Rick.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Katie. Desiree.
And I'm Brian.
Today we're working with a lot of self-advocates in the disability rights movement to explore ways that they can confront the use of language in our society that is often used to put people down. And particularly we're talking about the R word and retard, which is used ubiquitously throughout society. And we're developing some scenarios that allow people to practice what they can do when they hear degrading terminology in their lives.
The word retarded only reinforces the bad things about disabilities.
it's just not normal to call people that because, I mean, everybody has feelings. I mean, you and I have feelings. Everybody in this world has feelings.
I hold up my hand in front of my facing outwards, and the follower's job is to put their face about 6 inches away from my hand. And their job is to keep their face that far from my hand. If I go down with my hand, they go down. If I go up, they go up, okay?
Without words, our face and our body communicates beautifully. It communicates even more fully than when we're using our words. And as we're building towards creating some scenes where you need some practice using our bodies and using our faces. One of the forms that we use is called image theater or body sculpture. What do you see in this picture? And it's a frozen picture of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people freezing a moment in time. Who's got power in this situation? And conveying with their faces and with their bodies an image. Our images are often more powerful than our words. The importance of this kind of popular education is it's not just me or any educated person standing up in front of the room and telling people what they should do, but instead the practitioners of this form of theater and education facilitate a situation where the participants are teaching and learning each other, and the facilitator is also learning from the participants. So everybody has a role of teacher, everybody has a role of learner. For people who are oppressed, because of religion, race, class, gender, orientation, ability, we have often been lectured at or told what to do and not trusted that we have a lot of the answers. In this case, the disability rights community, the members of that community developing many of their own answers to these problems. We're really hopeful that out of today comes some actions that can be taken around the state that are developed by the people here today that creatively, dramatically, theatrically call attention to the use of the R word.
We are also talking about writing some derogatory terms on a piece of paper and then either burning it or shredding it up in a paper shredder in front of the Capitol.
Another idea we had was to speak with students and talk about our experiences with labels.
Larry is going to talk a little bit about his experience in life.
There's a school in West St. Paul, and these kids make a lot of fun of me. Call me mentally retarded, stupid, and this guy won't know nothing. I never got to go to school all the way. I only got to go to special ed. I never got to go to high school. Not having no respect for me. It kind of hurts inside. I still got that fear in me yet, where people would take advantage of me.
So how did you deal with it, like, as you're walking through the school?
I walked away, and I didn't get mad, but I ignored it. I didn't pay any attention to them after a while, but there has been people.
We talked with a lot of students about offensive language and about the R word. And then we went to the Minnesota Capitol and talked with legislators. And we took action.
We're going to go in there, and all of those legislators who haven't seen a ruckus are going to see a ruckus today. We're going to get rid of that R word. No more of that R word. No more using negative words about persons with disabilities. We're going to go over there and we're going to shred up that R at the end of the day. We're going to shred up all of those negative words. And what are we going to do? Shred! What are we going to do? Shred! Oh man, I can't wait until this afternoon.
And so we did it. We shredded the R word. People came from across the state to get rid of the labels we've heard for so long. But what next?